Hey, welcome back, man. We just went through Christmas, through New Year's. It's been a big break. Welcome back to
Yes.
the gym.
Yeah, it's been a crazy little Christmas to New Year's coming back in, right?
Oh, it absolutely has. I literally came back into town and then ended up flat on my back.
Let's get into Christmas a little bit because we didn't really get a chance to do a podcast during that time. And one of my favorite things to do is white elephant.
I love that game.
What is the worst white elephant gift that you've seen?
Probably what I got this year, which is the illness that put me flat on my back. I walked into town. It was absolutely, I came down with, by the time I went to the doctor, they said I had the flu, a sinus infection, and an ear infection. So
Yeah,
all
yeah.
three the worst white elephant gifts all at the same time in one package out for a week.
Tis the season for giving, and that's probably the worst gift that anybody can give somebody else.
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I think that's going into the topic for that today. We're going to talk about the sickness part, right?
We are.
So
And we are.
we're
So
gonna.
good morning,
Good
folks.
morning,
Welcome. This is the Affiliate Soapbox. I'm Coach Tanya.
and I'm Coach Mertz.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So you came home to a litany of diseases,
Diseases. Yeah. I
right?
was like typhoid Mary or the patient zero. Is that what it is?
Yeah. I mean, you're dealing with three things at once, and you probably all kinds of medication. I didn't venture into the gym much.
No, in fact, I went home literally New Year's Day afternoon, like just after the morning classes, and I was out. I was in bed. It was absolutely, I was done.
Yeah, yeah, and traveling, it always happens, right? We get on a plane with a litany of people. Somebody in that plane's probably sick. In fact, it increases your chance for getting sick by like 100 times. It's crazy.
Damn!
And also with that being said, you notice that how people get sick when changing of seasons, right? And you got to think about it. If you're on a plane going from one place to another place, you're essentially changing your season or changing your environment. That that leads into you getting sick or your immune system really not being able to battle
I
that
think
change.
we don't think about how much travel and then especially plane travel is stressful on the body, right? So yes, you're moving from, for instance, I went from New Orleans, a very humid, fairly moderate temperate climate, to Bismarck, North Dakota, which is for me the Arctic Circle. Going from 30, 40, maybe 50-degree temperatures here up to 10 degrees, maybe below zero some days. The humidity level up there is just absolutely bottoming out for me, because humidity here, we're anywhere in the 70s, 80s, 90s depending on the day. And up in North Dakota, even though it was snowing, it was super super dry. So first off, my body's in shock just because
Yeah.
of that. And then flying itself, the change in pressure, the change in not just your geography, but that the actual mechanics of flying are really hard on the body.
This is so hard.
Yeah. And I think with that being said, I tend not to get sick a whole lot. Even when I travel, there was an instance where I was driving back from Nashville for a mastermind 2 years ago, and it was right past COVID, a little bit, maybe 6 months past COVID kind of ended. And of course, people had gotten COVID while there, and I was in a car with two other people that got COVID, and I did not get COVID. So I think the reason why I bring that up is, what can we do to kind of keep our immune system healthy is comes down to vitamins for me. Like I eat a lot of fruit. There's a lot of, try to get my vitamin C, vitamin D, take vitamin D supplements, try to get out of the sun, get the vitamin D. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that's helped me, because at one time before CrossFit, Western diet and crap, all that, I would get sick pretty regularly, cough, cold. And, over the years of getting my diet dialed in, taking supplements as I need to, I really don't get sick that often. And I have to attribute it to that. Not only just the vitamins in the food that I eat, but also that I am active. I do get into the gym, and I do put my body through stressors that help. Because when you do stress your body will adjust to anything, just about anything, really.
I agree. And I think that probably lent itself, at least, for me, anecdotally, in my situation, I went to a place where there was not a lot of fresh unprocessed food available. I'm going home and there's a lot of Christmas food. I'm staying with someone else. So it's harder for me to maintain my regular eating habits. I did maintain going to the gym. I went to the gym 7 out of the 10 days I was
Oh,
there.
good. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I dropped into CrossFit Tertiary in Bismarck, North Dakota. Really great
Shout
little
out.
shout out, guys. Great little gym. Lots of fun, great coaches. But on the flip side of that, I wasn't eating my normal nutrition plan, my normal routine, right? There was a lot more processed foods. There was a lot more sugar. And I did try, but again, I'm staying with folks who are putting me up. It's a lot harder to rent space in a refrigerator,
Yeah.
right? It's harder to cook when there's a lot of family around and trying to do your own
And
thing.
there's food probably everywhere too.
Yeah,
Sitting on the counter throughout the day, kind of nibble on things all the time,
absolutely. What I definitely wasn't getting as much protein in as I like to get. Definitely not as many fresh vegetables.
It's hard.
Even not as much fruit,
It's
right?
hard.
So it became kind of a challenge eating, and then you top that off with the stress of travel. The holidays can be stressful themselves
Oh,
overall,
stress is
right?
another thing
The
right
stress
there.
was
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, absolutely. So my sleeping patterns were definitely irregular. And I think as we're finding out more and more, trying to go to bed and get up at the same time every day is important. And when you're on a holiday like that, you're also a little bit beholden to how early can I wake the whole house up if I'm going to
Yeah,
get up and
yeah.
go to CrossFit at 5 a.m., right? Or you're going to bed at 8 and the whole family's like, what's going on? We're still up, we're talking, we're socializing, we're
Yeah,
giving
yeah. You
gifts.
go to bed later than you normally
Right.
do.
So sleeping patterns are disrupted. And then with the travel itself, I had a more stressful trip home. One of my flights was delayed, so I missed the other flight.
I tell you, your history of that, and this year time I've been with you, every time you seem to travel is always an issue.
I don't think I've had a single trip, not a single trip this year where at least one flight, whether it was the flight out or the return home, hasn't been delayed. And it's usually the return home. So then I'm in a hotel, right? Because I'm staying overnight in a large city in a hotel. So I'm exposed to a lot more strangers. And again, challenged to eat healthier. A snowstorm hits Minneapolis. So it's an even bigger challenge to try and go get something on, the healthier side to eat. Lots of strangers, even locking myself in my hotel room, trying to stay away from everybody and get some rest.
There's a lot of white elephant presence out
There's
there.
a lot of white elephant going on as we travel. And then on the flight home, I'm in this middle seat because I got bumped to a
Oh, you were
different
telling us
flight.
yesterday.
Yeah, and I have two individuals sitting on either side of me, and you're already stuck in a cab with recycled air, dry air, and the person to my left was very clearly sick. It was kind of me hoping and praying and knowing that it was coming.
And I think this leads into, okay, all right, flying, when if you're sick and get on a plane flight, you're sick. How many people would say, I'm not going to get on that flight because I'm sick? Same thing with the gym. I'm sick. Do I want to go into the gym? Right. And to that question, how would you answer that?
I think first and foremost, especially because of what I just experienced, ask yourself, am I someone I would want to be sitting next to a plane on, sitting next to on a plane right now, or working out next to in the gym, right? So if you duplicate yourself and take a hard look at how you feel in your condition at the moment, if there's person sat next to you on a plane, on a bus, in the car, or was doing push-ups right next to you in the gym, how comfortable would you be? How worried would you be about being sick? Because that's one of the first things that comes to mind when I see people who are clearly sick walk into any social environment. I'm like, wow, if I was that sick, I wouldn't come in because I don't want to be near that person for fear of getting sick, not just for myself, but of spreading it. When you have elderly family, when you have kids, when you have a, forward facing job as we do, because we see and deal with dozens, if not hundreds of people on a daily basis. So how worried should you be, right? If you're next to someone sick. So think about that. Am I someone I would want to be next to in a social situation right now with the risks inherent in spreading an illness, not just getting it myself?
Yeah, that's hard. And when we thought about this subject matter, it's a hard one for me to answer because I want to see people come in and get their workout in. I hate to see them miss a day because that whole consistency matter there. And the question that I often ask is, how sick are you? Is it a head cold, or are you puking and can't get out of bed? I mean, obviously you're not going to work out in that condition, and can can we get somebody in the gym that has a slight head cold? Kind of, hey, look, they make us aware they're cold, they have a little sickness. Can we keep them away from most people during that time? It's almost like the question is, if you're going into work, right? Some working environments, the manager will say, if we don't want you in if you're sick because you're contagious. And then some employees, employers would be like, oh, come in. I don't care if you're sick. Come in. We need this work done. And you chance that in any way you can. You like this. You want to be productive, but there's this negative effect that could happen, like you experience, right? It goes to one person, to another person, to another person. Next thing you know, if you get the whole gym sick because of one person, then you really feel bad as a coach or an owner that you allowed that to happen.
I think for me, my go-to is always if you're feeling sick and we're talking sick symptoms, you're not just tired, you're not just feeling kind of unmotivated, you're like, oh, I don't know. If you're actually sick, if you have some form of a cold, if you have cold symptoms, then you need to take the day and take that day off, see how you feel by later in the day or the next day. Because maybe it's just something fly by night, maybe you'll be over it in a day. But you have to realize when you come into the gym, what we do here is we break down the body, we break down its current state, and then it rebuilds. But if you're coming in and you're already compromised, health
Yeah, yeah.
wise, you're probably not getting the intended stimulus of that workout. Okay. And B, now we're compromising you more, right? So you're already ill on whatever level you have that illness. Now we're going to compromise the body's ability to fight that illness, which is not the intention of working out. So the chances of you getting sicker and not just spreading it to someone else, but the chance of worsening an illness that if you had taken that day or maybe two off, maybe wouldn't have been as bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you have to look at it in terms of that, like how much, not just am I going to spread it, going to actually make my situation worse.
Sure. And, as a little devil's advocate, I'll bring up on that. I definitely have been where slightly sick. Maybe I have a little runny nose, little head cold, and I get a workout in and I feel better for the rest of the day. Maybe the next day, and I've seen this happen on the opposite end where I feel better on that day, but the next day I feel worse than I did
Yeah,
the
because
previous day.
you've just compromised your body's ability to fight off something that previously might have been a minor cold, and now you're a lot sicker.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it goes, how do you feel? And with that being said, like if you're, coughing, if you're coughing, that's probably one sign right there. If you're coughing, don't go to the gym because you're definitely passing around in Eastern Hemisphere countries, Japan, China, all these, they actually wear masks as a sign of respect.
Because they don't want to get someone else sick. I think we have this because of recent history.
Yeah.
In our country, we have a
well, think about it, right?
A varied view of masks, a very varied view of
going
masks
into
and
COVID. Going into COVID, where a lot of people, and I can tell you, I was probably one of them that said, "I'm not wearing a damn mask," and it looks as a sign of weakness, right? If I have to wear a mask, I'm not. Who cares about you? I'm going to breathe the way I want to breathe. I want to talk the way I want to talk. I don't want something in my mouth that covers my mouth from doing my. Who cares about you? And it is we've learned during COVID that, hey, you know what? Wearing a mask when you're sick is probably okay, and shouldn't be viewed as your, push your ego aside and wear a mask if you're sick. I think that's something that we could probably, I think it's a good thing that if we wear masks if we're sick. We'll touch on that a whole lot, but I'll just say, you know what? I definitely look at a person who is sick wearing a mask as thank you.
You're looking at somebody who, if they are wearing a mask because they're sick, that's them attempting to not get you sick. Are there folks out there who still wear masks to prevent themselves from getting sick? Possibly. That's very likely.
Sure.
I think,
yeah.
You can argue the science back and forth all day. I think if you're feeling sick, we're not going to argue the science. It's not that long of a podcast. But I think if you are feeling ill and you have to go out in public and you don't have a choice, wearing a mask is a decent, respectful option to help prevent spreading it to someone else. Whether or not you're super successful with that, even if there's only a 10% chance, I think it can be a very good thing to help prevent other people from getting sick, especially if you're going to be around populations, elderly folks, kids, people that are immunocompromised. And the problem is we don't always know. Someone can be immunocompromised. They don't wear that on a t-shirt saying I get sick easily, and that's something we need to start considering for other people.
Yeah.
So about coming into the gym, I think, think about your gym buddies. If your best gym friend came in pretty sick, how would you feel? So sometimes it's just a matter of putting yourself in that position. Like, take yourself out of yourself for a minute and say, okay, I'm sick. What if I wasn't the sick person? Again, would I want to be standing next to me in the condition that I'm in?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and like in the hospital setting, if you're an employee in a hospital setting, being nurse practitioner, doctor, or whatnot, typically if you're sick, they don't want you coming in because obviously it's a hospital. And with kind of to back up a little bit, what I do want to get into is talking about, we obviously, when we are taking that day off from being sick, what are we doing? We're resting, right?
Right.
And resting is, like you touched on a minute ago, we need to have our bodies be able to heal themselves. We can only do that by resting. And resting is super important. We know this because when we are sick, what do? We lay in bed, we rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
And leading into that, when you're coming into the gym, sick or not, being when there's a rest within the gym's program itself, it's so important. If you're not using the rest to your advantage, you're not going to be able to push the amount of energy that we require during that stimulus of that program of that day. And if it's kind of the same thing as being sick. If sick and trying to push through that stimulus, you're only going to hurt yourself. And it's kind of the limiting factor there for each component there.
Well, I think it's because in the fitness world, people haven't focused as much on why rest days are important. So let's talk about why are rest days important, right? So in CrossFit, originally, the prescription, if you will, for working out was you come into the gym for 3 days and then you take a day off.
Please take a full rest day.
Because we found that that third day is the final day that you're going to be able to produce the amount of effort needed to keep creating adaptation and change, building strength. When you get into that fourth day, from what we've seen in our data, it's not that you're spinning your wheels, you're just definitely not producing as much change, right? You're not doing as much good as you have been those 3 days. So take that day off, come back into the gym the next day. With everybody's work schedule in the modern world, that doesn't always work. So you'll see a lot of people that can only come Monday through Thursday or can only come Monday through Friday. And so that extends into working out 4 days in a row, 5 days in a row for some people. And that's okay. We'd rather have you in the gym than not those 4 or 5 days a week. So if you can't take those rest days in between, it's still important to take those rest days, minimum of 1 to 2 rest days a week, right? So what are we doing on rest days? We're letting our body repair, right? Which is important for muscle growth. We're letting our body recover from the stress of those workouts because that's what we're doing. We're stressing the body out to build its resistance and ability to handle stress, more stress in the future. Okay. We are replenishing our glycogen. So we have the energy we need for working out, for getting through our day on a daily basis. We're also preventing injury because if you come into the gym already pre-fatigued,
I made it.
You're already tired, you're exhausted, you're sore, you're mentally and physically fatigued, you're less likely to use the best form in any given exercise. So you're more likely to get hurt because, as we all know, most important thing is our mechanics up there on the wall, right? Before we hit that intensity. So your mechanics aren't going to be as good, even with a coach watching you. Okay. And then you also prevent burnout. Because we all get hyper excited about something new or something that this makes me feel good and my friends are always there and I don't want to miss it. It's that FOMO, right? We cannot miss out. But I think we've all experienced when you just go too far with that and you never take a day off and you never step away, sooner or later, you're going to experience that burnout, right? That mental, man, this is just something I do every day.
Yeah.
Right. And your physical body is going to come up with the same attitude as you do mentally. Preventing the burnout so you can, replenish your mental state, your mental attitude, taking that rest, taking that step away. But when I say that rest day, that doesn't mean it's not the extreme opposite of coming into the gym. I'm not telling you to do like I had to do while sick, which was lay in bed. I'm not saying you have to sit in that armchair and eat Cheetos. Definitely not. Right. A rest day can be going for a walk. Okay. Rest day can be doing some active recovery. So maybe you're stretching. Maybe you do come into the gym and just, hey, coach, can I do some active recovery? I've had athletes come in and they really want to be here. And for whatever reason, they really want to be here. I'm not going to turn them away. So instead of having them do the full workout, I'll have them do the warm up and then the cool down. So they can still be a little bit a part of class, but they're not doing that high intensity workout that we planned for the day. Instead, we're doing some muscle activation, we're doing some stretching, we're doing some mobility work. And that helps them feel like, yeah, I've been in the gym, I've done something, and then I can move on and come back tomorrow just ready to go, right? On fire.
Yeah. And rest days, I tell you, as we get older, the rest days become more and more important. Yeah, as a person that used to work out, I would do essentially 10 to 12 WODs throughout the week, sometimes 2-a-days, right? Definitely I would do 2 or 3 2-a-days and whatnot, and hitting 40, 41.
You're like the Keith Richards of CrossFit.
All right, let's see what we got.
I got to tell you, I think we've all been thinking it. You're really the Keith Richards of CrossFit.
Well, but nowadays, I only probably work out 4 times a week. And I do just the 1 workout a day, and my body feels a lot better because of it. My rest days even on days that I do have rest, I do. And it actually is part of one of my habits is I stretch every morning, just about. If not in the morning, I try to do it maybe around lunchtime when I have a little bit of a break. But I try to keep my body moving as much as I can. Even like you said, doing some active recovery, go for a little walk. I walk for about 30, 45 minutes every week on Sunday. And not only, like I said, I'm talking about mentally, I think that right there is a huge upside for people who looking for something to do active. Some active recovery to get out, get a walk in, get a long walk in, turn the music off. Don't put earphones in, and just walk and let your mind relax a little bit. Because like you said, if your body's being stressed all the time, your mind's being stressed all the time, it needs a break too. And sometimes just doing a little active walk with your brain, be able to think about maybe what's coming up this week, maybe something deep inside you that you want to think about and kind of ponder with. It all can help you throughout the week, and not only that, but maybe you figure out something that can help your life exponentially. Come with a slight idea to help change your way of life to be able to become a better human being.
Well, and I think too, some things you can think about, whether you're on a slow, easy jog or on that walk, to give your mind a break. Let's play the car game, right? So while you're walking along,
The car game.
how many red cars can I see while I'm taking this walk, to try and keep yourself from being tempted for putting in that headset, right? Or calling a friend, listening to the music. How many red cars can I see? How many dogs are going to be walking past me when I go for this walk? You could listen to our podcast. So I think we're pretty relaxing and entertaining,
I think
right?
it could be. It could be.
I mean,
I don't think we're too stressful around here.
not me anyway. I'm not stressful. Keith Richards over here might be a little stressful. So talking about rest, let's make that a little bit, we've kind of gone over the macro view of rest. Let's go a little micro with it. Let's go about rest inside the gym, because this is something even just this week already. It's only
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday we had 1 rep max bench press day, right? And it was written on the board, prescribed 2 minutes rest between sets. And even when you get to those 1 rep attempts, 2, 3 or more minutes rest
100%,
between attempts. And yet we still had athletes trying to start those 1 rep max attempts. They had 25 minutes to do this after warming up. And some folks are still trying to do those 1 rep attempts between 10 and 14 minutes in, right?
I got to say, he did awesome.
He
did awesome.
Yay.
He did awesome. Yeah, I think he finished his last set around 22 to 23 minutes in.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Slowing it down, taking that rest. So I think athletes see that as, wow, I'm not moving, I'm not working out enough, I'm not getting anything done. Okay. They don't understand why we want them to take that rest. And a lot of times in class, there isn't time to explain it. So let's talk about it. So rest between sets. And I'm talking about our strength days we're working on building maximal strength. Prescription throughout the fitness world is usually somewhere between 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or even 5 minutes rest when we get to those heavy single max lift attempts, right? Why do we do that?
We
Why?
Well, we do that because there's mitochondria in our cells produce ATP, which is our energy to be able to power force throughout whatever object we're using. And we need time for that ATP to go up. Think of like a gas tank, right? E means empty, half full tank. If we can be at full tank for that lift, we can use as much of that energy system as we have restored to be able to produce the maximum effort we can. If we're only going 25, 50% of that ATP recuperating, then we're not, when we get to those 1 RMs, we're just not going to be set up to be able to use as much power as we can because our energy our ATP is just not recouped enough. And then also with that being said, even in a Metcon itself will program rest, right? And that rest could be used in a couple different ways as well. Maybe that rest is short enough. Like there's always this workout, this WOD where where the 1 minute rest isn't enough for that ATP to recuperate.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this, right? You're kind of just pushing yourself through, and you can see like the times or the weight or whatever it is you're doing kind of decline. That's strategically programmed for that. Then sometimes there might be a 1-to-1 ratio where we may have just as much rest as we do work, and then sometimes it might be more rest than work.
Right. You're pushing your body. We're training your body to try to recoup that ATP faster.
Yeah.
But within that, there's still the biological limits.
Sure.
So on the strength days, the maximal strength days, yes, we want that minimum 2 minutes rest. On Metcon days where we have that 1 minute rest, or maybe it's 90-second rest, we're looking more towards either pushing your ATP system, trying to make it more efficient, or we're looking for hypertrophy. Right? So
Yeah.
we're looking for a different effect there. And not just talking about our energy systems, but your muscles and your nervous system, right, also need to recover between sets. If you're going to make multiple attempts at a max lift, getting heavier and heavier, you want to be as fresh as you can for each attempt. And if you're doing sit-ups between sets, if you're stressing your body, right, in other
Yeah.
ways instead of actually resting. So if you're doing sit-ups between deadlift attempts, if you're trying to do burpees between squat attempts, if you're doing anything other than rest, when you're supposed to be resting, you're hindering your ability to build that maximal strength that we're trying to build that day.
Yeah. And the central nervous system is a wonderful thing. When we go through movement patterns, our nerves are being stressed because we're essentially going through ranges of motion with adequate weight that pushes the nervous system to its maximum, right? And as our nerves are rewiring themselves to be able to produce more power through our muscles, those need to have a break as well to be able to make sure that those nerves connect properly to be able to produce power.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do during a rest? I told you, don't do sit-ups, don't do burpees, don't do jump rope. What should you be doing during that 2 minutes rest?
Sit your happy ass down.
Yep. Coach Kyle in the gym, he will literally bring out boxes for you to sit on between your lifts, and he will tell you to sit down, and he's not wrong. I think a lot of us get into that workout mode and we're super hyper and we've got all the energy and we're like, man, I want to max out today. So we're standing around and we're moving around. While you're doing that,
Yeah.
you're using up some of that energy that's being recouped. And so now you aren't going to have that maximal amount. So he's right. And I'm guilty of it too. I will always take my rest. But during that rest, sometimes I want to walk around and talk to people. Sometimes I want to just dance around. I'm so excited. This is a really good song. But I don't sit down, and I should be sitting down.
You
and
can
that's
sit down
something
and
I need
talk.
to work on.
You can
That's
sit down
true.
and you can sit down and talk. And I think that's one of the biggest benefits of doing a strength only days is because like yesterday at the 5:15 p.m. class, we all were cutting up, having fun between sets, and also with that being said, kind of leaning into the Metcon portion of the prescribed rest. It's almost actually opposite. You don't want to sit down during a Metcon rest, I feel like, because your lactic acid is being built up so much, you need to flush it out. So you want to be able to move around a little bit. So if you're doing a Metcon, I would say don't sit down, don't lay down during that rest. Stand up, move around, walk around, do something opposing to that because we're trying to flush out that lactic acid.
It's a difference in intensity, the intended stimulus. So when you're doing that 1 rep max attempt, we're looking for the most intensity you can put out in the very shortest amount of time.
Correct.
Once you're done with that 1 rep max, you should need to sit down. The effort produced in that attempt should make you want to sit down and be like, whoo, I got to rest for a while. So it's again looking at intensity. Where is that 14-minute WOD, right? That 14-minute time frame. I'm looking for a different kind of intensity, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking for putting out maybe only 75, 80% effort at that time, but at a more sustained time frame, at a sustained pace.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, going through this season of it's gonna get colder.
Getting colder.
Right. It's gonna get colder. Sickness is gonna get more and more prevalent.
It's Mardi Gras. We're going to see everybody all the time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So getting to the gym, do your workouts, rest when we tell you, right? Use as much as you can of that because, if you're pushing your body through that stressors in here and pushing past your limits, the chances of you getting sick when you're out and about during Mardi Gras, during cold season, it's sure enough would go up. Your probably chances of getting sick can go up pretty
Absolutely.
exponentially.
And I think nutritionally, we're pretty challenged too. By the way, happy King's Day, everyone.
Yes, it
happy
is.
January 6th. Today is the first legal day you have from now until Fat Tuesday, the only legal time during the year in which you can imbibe king cake. Okay. So, yes, take advantage of this time while you can. But that being said, let's keep in mind some nutrition here. It can be very challenging, especially when you're on those parade routes, because king cake is one of the ways we stay fueled, right? We go out there, we're out there for 4, 5, 6, 12 hours. If you're saving your spot, maybe even more. You're jumping around, you're trampling, hopefully not small children to get those Muses shoes. You're doing all the things. At the parade, you're super excited. A lot of people are drinking. So I think one of the things going into all of this is how do we stay on track and hopefully prevent some illness? And that goes back to, let's see if we can insert some nutrition. Maybe we fuel up on some protein, have some chicken.
Popeye fried chicken.
No, not maybe Popeye's fried
Skip the
chicken.
biscuit.
Did they want to sponsor us? No. Look for ways to get in your protein. Look for ways. Some people bring veggie trays, something like that.
I think that'd be a good podcast for it to kind of dig in deeper as we get to the Mardi Gras.
Next week, folks, let's talk about some Mardi Gras nutrition because the parades are about to start. We need to know how to be fueled and ready. I'm already training you in the CrossFit gym. Some of these heavy carries, these heavy lifts. Now you can rush with all your stuff to save your spot. You got to beat the next guy, right?
Yeah.
You can jump really high to catch those beads multiple times. You can push people out of the way. You can move those ladders. We're getting you physically ready in the gym for Mardi Gras, but we need to talk about how to get you nutritionally ready as well.
We'll do the same subject matter today. We'll also add in, what do you do when you're hungover and come to the gym? Or do you go to the gym? We'll talk about that in the next.
Keith is coming back for the next podcast.
I've come into the gym hungover so many times. Don't listen to me.
Yes, absolutely. Do not listen to Mertz. We have some stories, folks. We'll get into that next week. I'm Coach Tanya.
And I'm Coach Mertz.
This has been the Affiliate Soapbox. Please like, share, and follow. We'll see you next week. It did take a lot of Robitussin to sleep last night, man, and it was still difficult.